Hey everybody, hope you're all doing well. My name is Steven and this is the Storytime channel. Just a quick reminder that I do a giveaway every single week, so if you're interested, I'll tell you exactly how to enter later on in the video. Today we have some malicious compliance stories, and our first story of the day is by originaldeadlysin. So I worked years ago as Tier 1.5, Senior Tier 1. Familiar with the rare and unusual issues, access to a few more buttons that would break stuff if used incorrectly, and you probably talked to my position when you asked for a supervisor. Internet tech support for a major cable company. Part of the job was, when necessary, to credit customers for downtime they had in their service. Our rules were surprisingly lax for this company. Anything up to $20 would be auto-approved for any agent, up to $50 for those in my position. If someone called in and their service hadn't been working for 3 days, our troubleshooting indicated a reasonable probability the issue was our fault and required a tech on site in 2 days from now. We were allowed and expected to apply a credit to their account for 5 days service. Service was usually $42.95 a month or $1.43 a day in a 30-day month. So in that example, we'd be expected to add a credit of $7.15, and nobody would ever be in trouble if they rounded that up to an even $10. If the problem wasn't on our end, let's say somebody accidentally unplugged the power cable to the modem and waited 2 days to call in, again, nobody would ever be in trouble if they credited those 2 days to keep a customer happy. But for that one, they'd have to ask. We generally wouldn't do it proactively, since not our fault. Now finally, the dozens of virtually identical malicious compliance. There were a number of self-identified important people. Usually I was talking to them because they were angry jerks, to be blunt, who wanted a supervisor. In this situation, they were invariably calling for the latter issue. The one that wasn't our fault, and we walked them through plugging something back in or something equally simple and clearly not our problem. And then many of them would say my very favorite words. "Listen, I pay a lot of money for your service. It wasn't working and I want to be credited for every minute it was down, you hear me? Every single minute." Often a lot more words wrapped around this, various expletives, lots of attitude. "You got it, sir/ma'am. Let me make sure I get you credited for every single minute you were down. You say this started at 9? Well, it's 10:24 now, so let's see. $42.95 per month is $143 per day, which is 5.965 cents per hour, which is 0.0994 cents per minute. You were out for 84 minutes, which means we owe you 8.351 cents. I'll just round that up to 9. Anything else I can do for you today?" In case you haven't worked a customer service job before and can't immediately picture the reaction, every single customer is now realizing what a stink they made to get a 9-cent refund, and I'm sure could hear the poop-eating grin in my overly polite voice as I happily acquiesced. And usually they can't even bring themselves to either apologize for overreacting or, on the other end of things, say thank you for their near dime. 90% of the time, they'd hang up after a couple seconds of silence. But hey, they got exactly what they asked for. I'm kind of curious. Have you ever blown up or gotten angry with a customer service person over the phone? Let me know in the comments down below because I'm curious how many people actually have. Our next story is by Remember Table Day 525, moved the boss man's car as he requested. When I was young, I worked as an office administrator for an arrogant man who owned a chain of jewelry stores in the DC area. I learned a lot about people at that job. 2 locations were standalone. One was in a mall on a metro line, one was in a high-end hotel downtown, and the one where I worked was in a large mall in Virginia. I wasn't good at boundaries at that age, and I did a lot of menial tasks I probably should have declined because I didn't know any better. So he pushed the boundaries. It was raining at the mall location, and the boss complained that he had worn his custom Italian leather shoes, worth thousands, and forgotten his rain shoe covers in his car that he had parked outside in an uncovered parking space behind the mall near an employee entrance. He told me to take his keys and move his Cadillac into the nearby covered mall parking garage so he would not have to get his shoes wet when he left the store. And that's when the devil made me grin. At the end of my workday, I took the car keys and went out into the rain in my heeled pumps and silk blazer office attire without a raincoat and moved his car into the large 5-story mall parking garage. I walked back to the store and put his keys on his desk, clocked out, and went home. I never told him where in the huge parking garage I had parked his car. Random 3rd level, far corner. He never brought it up to me. I actually thought this was going to be a whole story about how they got all wet from the rain and maybe kind of muddy or something on the way there, I don't know. But it ended up going a completely different direction, and I think it's even funnier. Our next story is by Yatu Sabes, the one where I was paid almost 3 months just for walking. It's been a while, but I never really told anyone, and it turns out I'm still kinda pissed about it, so be warned, it'll be a bit ranty. Context: I was working short-term contracts via an agency at the time to experience different fields in the cash, while I looked for something more permanent. First contact: I got this one contract at a health center. I show up on my first day and have a hard time getting a hold of my new boss, so I just wait around awkwardly, asking around for her. When I finally meet her, she's a stressed person, constantly walking and talking fast and barely listening. I ask what work I'm supposed to do, but she says she has no time for me, so she gives me a stack of papers and asks me to make as many copies as possible. The social workers use them all the time, and we can literally never have too many. I don't even have the time to wonder if I have any questions that she's gone. The copies are bad, some are faded, others are poorly cropped. I track down the originals, or the earliest copies possible, to improve the quality of the booklets as much as possible and make a crap load of copies. It is mind-numbing work, and I am bored out of my mind. After over 60 hours of copying the same crap, I was brain dead inside and quite frankly kinda miserable. They stacked up at first, but it turns out it was because the social workers didn't know they could use them. They didn't want to steal someone else's stuff, so when I explained I was filling my time with that while my real job was explained to me and that these copies were free for all, they were ecstatic and grateful. The good news spread and rose like bubbles in a freshly poured beer, and the mood was awesome. It made my mental misery and countless paper cuts worthwhile. The actual job. That ended when my boss finally took the time to explain the project she had actually hired me for. The health center wanted to maximize the use of the meeting rooms and needed me to watch how they were being used. She wanted to know when people got in and out of the rooms and what they were using them for. This was to track the downtimes and maybe even rent out some of the meeting rooms to outsiders. I asked how exactly I was supposed to do that since I couldn't be in 3 different floors at the same time and watch them from end to another among multiple corridors. She said she didn't know and to figure it out, and she ignored me and walked out on me. I was dumbfounded, but I complied. I honestly still have no idea how I was supposed to accomplish that. The best solution I found was to walk all the corridors in a loop. One loop took roughly 8 to 13 minutes. 13 when I started, 8 as I built cardio and muscles. I took a few minutes breaks so each loop started every 20 minutes. That way I'd have an idea of the room usage. I intended to eventually compile the information on the computer, likely my personal one, since I had no equipment assigned to me. The compliance. So for months I walked. I was used to desk jobs. My feet at first were swollen and everything hurt. I was tired, dead tired, when I finished work. But that was actually the upside. I had never had such nice legs and booty. I became fitter and my pants looked really good on me. The downside was that it created a hostile work environment. The health workers using the rooms felt hawked and watched. To them, I was basically a spy from management. I had their names and activities with time logs and room numbers. You couldn't tell easily if a room was in usage, so I literally had to bend over to see if there were feet inside via the non-glazed portions of the glass panes when there were any. I couldn't always tell who had used what room. It was heck, everyone hated me. I became depressed. There was no one I could talk to. My boss basically ignored and avoided me, and she was my only point of contact. I tried to be friendly and nice, but I was still pretty much just hated. I made the mistake of reading an article on the Palestine and Israel conflict, something I knew little about at the time. Since I couldn't finish the article in one go, I left the newspaper open on that page while I hurried through my round, and when I came back, a doctor was upset and crying, saying something about how it was on purpose since the newspaper was open on that page. I have no idea why it was wrong to read a newspaper article, and I was already hated, so I just walked away bewildered. The following day, my only comfort at work disappeared. It was a tiny teaspoon beautifully decorated that had accompanied me throughout my university years. It was a source of comfort to me, like a teddy bear or a warm blanket in that cold place where I didn't belong and wasn't welcome. I was so upset. I literally made wanted/lost posters, and still, no one ever gave it back. I had stupidly ran out of time after drinking my coffee and left it in my mug while I hurriedly made a round. In the few minutes I was gone, it had disappeared. Honestly, I missed being chained to the photocopy machine at that point. At least people actually appreciated what I did back then, and I was liked, not hated. The fallout. Mercifully, I found a permanent job downtown with very good conditions, so I gave my notice, at which point my boss finally made time for me. I could almost swear she had been avoiding me until then, and any interaction was cut short by her mumbling something or the other without paying attention to what I was saying and fast walking away. So anyway, at this point she asked to see what I'd done. I explained my reasoning and showed her my piles of data accumulated for almost 3 months by then. She was shocked. "This is useless," she said. I wanted to smirk. I wanted to roll my eyes. Honestly, what did she expect? She wasn't wrong though. It was useless data. Columns and columns of data coded in simple letters and scribbled notes. Completely unreliable since even as I was taking the notes, I had no way of confirming if anyone was really in the room or not. Well, this is the best I could do with the resources and guidance I was given, I said and shrugged. Not my problem. Honestly, I just wanted out. She was shocked and angry, and I didn't give a crap. I had been paid to walk 8 hours a day. My very presence made everyone hate management. I was never so happy to leave a job. Things were looking up. I never looked back. I still hate that place. A social worker there stole my custom-ordered books from Japan. She never answered my calls when I tried to reach her about it. She had an address where she could drop them and multiple phone numbers she could use to reach me. All that info I had also taped inside the books. She just ignored me and kept them, even though she said she didn't like them. What the freak? I was young, dumb, and naive. I believed her to be trustworthy because of her job and the impression she gave off. Much regrets were had. My Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind collection remains pilfered to this day. Freak that place. But hey, got fit, got paid, and freaked over the hated management. I'd have left with my middle fingers held up if I didn't have a bunch of bags and a bus pass to carry. I definitely feel for OP when they lost their teaspoon. If I had anything that was truly special to me, I probably just would not bring it anywhere in public, where regardless of where I am, it can be stolen. Especially to work like that, I feel like it's just kind of asking for it. Obviously, it shouldn't have happened in an OP situation. It seems they always had it on them, but it just so happens they forgot it in that one case, but that's all it takes. Our next story is by Jolix. Don't believe me calling in sick? Here's the evidence. So this happened earlier this year, not too long after we'd gone into lockdown. We were all working from home and checking in daily with our teams virtually. One evening, I started getting horrific period cramps. I have endometriosis, PCOS, and a history of gynae issues, so I'm no stranger to this pain. I'm up most of the night in pain and trying not to vomit, so naturally I'm exhausted and still fighting the pain when the morning rolls around. I message my boss telling him I'm not feeling well, and he rings me to ask what's wrong. It's obviously a pretty embarrassing subject, especially with a male boss, and so I'm deliberately quite vague about it and probably come across as avoiding the questions. Later that day, I log into my work emails and see an email from my boss to his manager with my name as the subject. He's accidentally copied me into his email about me calling in sick and being deliberately vague about my illness. He finishes the email with, "We need to keep an eye on this." So I hit a reply all and write them both the following email. "Dear boss, I'm guessing I wasn't supposed to be copied in on this, but seeing as I am, I feel I need to set a few things straight. I have been up most of the night with excruciating period pains, which make me vomit and not sleep. I have blood clots coming out of me, my reproductive system hates me, and there is literally nothing I can do about it. I've had this for years, but every now and again it gets too bad for even me to handle, and I need a day off to deal with it. I am sure you can understand that discussing such matters with my male managers is not easy, hence the reluctance to talk about this over the phone. If you require any further information, please let me know and I will gladly assist." Needless to say, I had 2 very hasty replies apologizing for copying me into their emails and emphasizing that periods are not a taboo subject with them and hoping that I feel better soon. I definitely understand that discussing a period-related issue with a male boss can probably be very uncomfortable for some people, but I also feel like it's not a big deal in the grand scheme of things. Almost every woman experiences it, and if you have painful or debilitating issues, I don't think there's any shame in that. I think it gets more awkward the more you make it awkward. I feel like if you just explain to the boss that you have terrible period pains and just completely own it, it just gets settled and it goes away kind of just like that. So quickly now, I want to explain just how to enter the giveaway. All you need to do is leave a comment on this video relevant to something you saw or heard or liked in any story in that video. That's it, you're entered. But it applies to every single video we upload this week. So to get the best odds at winning the $30 Amazon gift card giveaway, you'll want to leave a comment relating to any of those videos all week long. On Sunday, after the last video has gone out, I'll pick one comment at random and let you know on the following Monday who has won, and then it starts all over again. So make sure you leave a relevant comment on this video and additionally every video I upload this week for the absolute best chance to win. And while you're at it, why don't you go ahead and give the videos a like too, because it helps more than you could imagine. And our final story of the day is by Columbiasongbird. Want to be nosy about a super personal medical issue? I'll tell you more than you ever wanted to know. So I just had a lateral sphincterectomy for chronic anal fissures. It's just as painful and terrible as it sounds. It's also kind of an awkward topic to get into with 99% of people, so for the most part I've been deliberately vague about my surgery with people. My husband, parents, boss, and closest friends know the details, but as far as anyone else knows, I'm just having a minor procedure and will be out of work for a while. If people have reached out to check on me and see if I'm okay, that's fine. I appreciate that. But if they keep prying despite my obvious attempts to be vague, my strategy has been to tell them in graphic detail exactly what the surgery entails and make them regret asking. It goes like this. "Hey, I heard you were having surgery. Is everything okay?" "Yeah, it's just a small elective procedure. Everything is fine, thanks for checking in." Usually the conversation is over here or the subject is changed. But if the person wants to be nosy, it continues. "Okay, good, just making sure." "Yep, all good." "What's the surgery for?" "It's for a digestive system issue. Nothing to worry about." "Oh, what is it?" "My butthole. I have chronic anal fissures, which means my entire anus splits open every single time I poop. It's excruciating. I'm having a sphincterectomy. That's where they cut into the sphincter muscle from the inside and then cauterize the fissures to allow them to heal better." "Well, that's graphic." I try to be vague, but you still felt the need to ask, so I felt the need to tell you. I really just hope it makes them feel awkward and like they shouldn't have asked such personal questions when someone was clearly trying to be vague about something. Mind your own darn business and get your nose out of my butt. Literally. People are naturally curious. Honestly, I feel like if I was in that situation, I probably would be kind of nosy too. I mean, you hear somebody's going in for a surgery, you just kind of want to know what it is. I would just say if you don't necessarily want to share the details, instead of just kind of beating around the bush and being vague, maybe just say, I don't really want to go into great detail, but it's a digestive system issue, something like that. It's like when you're in a relationship and you expect the other person to make a move based on subtle hints that are just never clear enough. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So, which of these stories was your favorite and why? Let me know in the comments down below. But besides that, if you enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing and turn notifications on if you haven't so you'll never miss an upcoming video. Any little thing that you do helps the channel grow so much more. Whether it's commenting, subscribing, or just watching the video, thank you all so very much for supporting me right here on the Storytime channel. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you all next time, right here.